These are some of the questions that are tough for some kids, and I'm going to review to you how exactly you can solve them by knowing the tricks as well as the concepts behind. Okay, so when you can see two figures overlapping each other and this is equal, that means the common area that is being shaded, this is actually equal fraction, and it's saying a quarter of x is equals to 2/5 of y, and this is actually under one of the problem sum types called equal fraction. We just need to make numerator the same. Okay, for this kind of question, it's pretty common, and when it has three fractions and more than one whole, the trick is to minus the one whole, leaving only more manageable proper fraction. And can you see that the numerators are all the same? And this is by design, not by coincidence. And the bigger the denominator, the smaller the... Okay, in this case, this is actually remainder concept. And this is a very short remainder concept. So you just need to know how to use the of, which is a times in math. So this 2/3 is of the remainder. Fraction is not the remainder of the whole thing. And one of the common mistakes made by kids is they can't differentiate the fraction of the total and fraction of the remainder, which is part of the saving, not the entire fraction. So to find the actual or total fraction, you need to take 2 times the fraction that's assigned to the remainder to find the given. And likewise for left, you need to get you can get 1/3 times the fraction to find the actual fraction. That's why I always insist my students in my class to do branching so they can understand, because this is a very common question. Okay, for this is a calculation error. Okay, so we move on. Okay, for this is actually a working forward question, then followed by a working backward. And you need to know the heuristics. And it's always easier to start off with numbers. So just follow the trace. 110 add 18 minus 17, just follow, and then you have final number, and then you draw the model because you see more than, which is draw the water gun long shot, and because there's a long shot, there's unit inside, you need to find one unit, and after you have found one u is to solve. So the framework and the steps are always the same. Okay, this one came out in our worksheet. This is under equivalent ratio, and it's a very common question that has been reused for the longest time. Just need to do ratio, adult is to children, 25 is to 40, and reduce it. Yeah, or you can express like that as well. Then you change the children to the adults because you only want adults. Okay, this one is a very good question because it helps you to, or rather it tests you whether you understand the different, how the number changes and they are being assigned different percentage because the 100% changes. So you need to do questions like that when the numbers change, they are being assigned to a different percentage. And also how the previous percentage that belongs to the first 100% is equivalent to the percentage of the new 100%. Okay, for this kind of question, you can see that there's ratio and there's ratio. When there are two ratio, the first thing to do is to find one common ratio. It's always the same step, and that's by making something the same. Find something that is repeated, and that's what we call the repeated identity. And in this case, they have C, S, and B, and they have S, C, and B, and it's always finding the total the same. Then after that, because there's ratio and there's units, number given in the question is to find one U. You can see here, and after that to solve, and it's the same old thing. Do you remember just now we went through the three fractions that are more than one? It's the same process, just change it to mixed number, and you can see that one whole is the same, and then the proper fraction has the same numerator, and just need to compare the denominator. Okay, for this question is very much of assigning the wrong number to the 100%. So what you need to do is very much just to make sure that you match the right value to the 100%. And it says the percentage of the prize money, that means percentage of the 100%. And this is the prize money that goes to 100%. Okay, from a glance, this is actually a grouping question because it's individual value. You can see that in a group, it's always 731, 731, 731, which means 7 pieces of this, 3 pieces of this, and 1 piece of this. And that's always a total value. And this is a big giveaway. And for a grouping question, there are 4 steps. Find one group, because you need to know what's one group for grouping. Find the group value, number of groups, which is total value divided by the group value, and then you solve by finding what they want. So she missed out one step, which is the last step, which is to solve. Okay, this one is a transfer, this one is a calculation error. Okay, for this one is really tricky because for most line or bar graph, it shows the data that has been used, sold, or given away. But this one is the leftover, so you have to do another step, which is to minus off to see how many are sold. Yeah, so please be very careful and just need to tell your kid to take note of their graphs like this that show what is left, not sold or given away. Can you see that this question is very similar to the first question that I did? Same thing, find the common number and then make sure that all of them are the real units, are the actual units, and then you can solve. So basically, the flow is always the same. It doesn't matter is it fraction or ratio. If that is the overlapping identity or part that should have the same number, just make that the same. Okay, for 2 parts question, A answer can be used for part B, and when you can't use it, you gotta be on alert. And if you don't use it, you gotta be sure that you truly understand the question and know that there's no need for you to use. But But for most two-parted question, the part A answer can always be used for part B, mostly. So make sure that you can actually go from the flow, like you continue from A to solve B, and they need not be separated. Okay, for this question, can you see this is made by another kid? And again, it's the understanding of remaining fraction that is not related to the one whole, but it's actually part of the one whole. And this one is probably she rushed through because this is the last question or second last, and she used apples minus oranges. So this one is truly under stress and time pressure, and she used the wrong number, and it just happened. Okay, for this sort of question, it's actually very common. Why? Because the kid doesn't know how to solve this, because she doesn't know that when you see a triangle in a square, you need to halve it. Basically, you can prove it by using the formula of area of triangle, half times base times height, and the base is actually the breadth of the rectangle, height is the length. So it's the same thing, half times length times height, half times breadth times length, which is actually half of the rectangle. So teaching your kid how to see this is a very essential skill. Yeah, so when you see that there's this extended length, there's an extended triangle, basically it shares the breadth or the base, and then the height is the length, and as the height changes, is the area actually get changed proportionally as well. So something that you need to experiment with your kid. So when you see a triangle in a four-sided figure, you have to activate that this knowledge. The triangle is half of the four-sided figure, but make sure that the corner touches the edge, touches this corner again. Okay, for this kind of question, if you are not sure, you can actually use Lego to do and to put on a piece of paper so that you can build this thing on the paper and turn it around without the need to dismantle it. Okay, for this one, I think again choosing the wrong number to calculate, which is a very common mistake besides transfer error. Transfer error means that answer 72, here you write 27 for section B, or questions that require you to write the answer in the answer box below. Okay, this kind of question is getting very common, greatest, least, maximum, minimum. So it's a play of English words. They are asking for full packet of 1/4 kg. So you can only have 3 whole packet. But let's say if you want answer to be 4, you'll be asking in this way, what was the greatest possible number of packets to contain all the sugar? Okay, so got to be ready for this. And this is something that I always remind the kid to read properly, especially this part, because it's really testing your understanding of English. Okay, for this one is a calculation error. Okay, just take note. Okay, this kind of question again has been used so many times over the years. Can you see that Fadil 5U is assigned to Fadil, and when you have half of 5 is 2.5, we find it's very hard to calculate 2.5 units and find 1U. So what you can do is, because it's not a whole number, when you have half, right, you times 2 first, as you can see here. So when you divide by 2 again, you get a whole number. And this is how we always solve this kind of question. Okay, same thing. Can you see that a similar mistake is made by another kid? And this one is also goes back to understanding of the total fraction, the actual fraction, as well as the fraction that is assigned to the remainder, or the fraction of the remainder. And this 4/5 is actually not the total fraction, but it's fraction of the actual fraction. And to find the actual fraction, you need to take 4/5 times the fraction that's being assigned to the remainder. So this is something that you need to really understand fully. And for this part, I think what was mistake done is this 4/5 is being split to each of the 5 t-shirt, or divided to each of the 5 t-shirt. If you follow the flow of the words divided by 5, it should be 4/5 divided by 5 and not the other way around. Okay, just do step by step, and then actually she will have gotten correct. Okay, same thing here. Can you see that different schools, they are using the similar questions, just that some use triangle, some use square, some use rectangles, and basically aim is really just to make the overlap number, and normally there are 2 numbers assigned and just make them the same. Can you see 3 and 2, and then just make them 6? Okay, in this case, let's see. So we have, so just make them 6. In fact, I would not assign units for both. I will just put here parts to make it clearer. And if you know how to use ratio, actually it's easy. No need to assign units and parts. Just make them as individual numbers. And once again, part A answer can be used for part B. And if you don't use it, unless you are very sure or you know that you don't need to use it, transfer error again. Okay, quite common. Okay, can you see? Kids, I'll start with this kind of question. Remember the first part? Yeah, okay. This question is very similar to one of the first few questions. And actually there's a more than here. You can see MO is covered. And when you see more than, right, start to assign units already. And in fact, you can see that the fractions is in units. Okay, for the more, this one by right, if there's no more, you can solve using equivalent ratio. But because there is no more, you have to draw 2 equal boxes, because it's also under equal concept. Angle questions, very important, must score full marks, and something that you can practice at home. Percentage question, again, this is very tricky, because once again, when there's a reduce by something, the shading didn't change. The 100%, the new 100% changes. Yeah, so I think many kids are already start with the new 100%. Okay, so this is a very good question. Snapshot it and do by yourself. Okay, and the question is 3,600. Okay, this one, calculation error. All right. Okay, once again, can you see the triangle inside the square? Again, it's very common. Yeah, so it's half the whole thing. And then because 1U, all right, so when you have 5 here, it's 5, or rather because it's 10, so split into half is 5, 5. You know that this is a 5. Okay, based on the information here is 1 or equal parts. Yeah, and I think this one is clearer. So because this is 5u, this is 5u, and you know that you need to activate. Okay, transfer error. So this is 0.030, so it's 30 ml. Okay, same thing. Understanding the meaning of what quantity divided by number of items you want, or how long, how heavy divided by the number of items. Okay, take note and do a keep change flip. Okay, this one is actually suggested working is simultaneous, and it's like algebra for some kids. So for me, I always like to look at the whole question as, because it's actually top equals to bottom and is equal, means that it's equal concept. Equal concept means that you can actually assign units, because it's part of heuristic. When you solve heuristic question, you have to assign units, and the number in the question is to find 1u, and then you do as per normal, okay? No need to do this. This is way too complicated. Okay, for this kind of question, you can see there's ratio. Remember, make them the same. There are two ratios, make them the same, and there's value per item. So this is grouping. When there's value assigned to the item, it's grouping, okay? Yeah, so basically you have to use grouping to solve the question and follow the 4 steps, and he would have gotten the full marks. Can you see that? It's the same thing. Mistakes that kids make. Equivalent ratio. Okay, equivalent ratio. Reduce simply. Okay, when you have a ratio like this, simplify, and then you assign cups into the glasses. Okay, because you just want the number for glasses. See, 6 glasses is equivalent to 8 cups. Okay, yes. Okay, just take note lah. Okay, so when you have remaining and there's a number, right? Don't use branching. Use put down, you can draw, and it's easier to see, because you have no idea how big the value is. Okay, you have no idea how big the value is. You do not know how much space or how many units $20 is. Okay, this kind of question, you have to draw model and learn how to draw model properly. Okay. And same thing, each friend 2 9. Okay, so the food divided by what each of them will get. Yeah, give each the divide. Okay, same thing, triangle in figure, and then it's actually over here. All right. Okay, that's it for the first W review, and I hope that it helps.